Okay, so welcome to the fourth coffee break. This is the episode number 44. And thank you very much, Sergio, for helping me fix the Roman numbers there. Welcome everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining today. Hope you are having so this week we have people from the Forge Accelerator. And I'm not sure if you have anyone here. If you have, raise your hand. Hope you're having a great week at the Accelerator. Hi, Will. I see anyone else? Hope you're having a great week there. So the coffee break is really an open space for general questions, general topics that you are having, projects that you are working with, open discussions. And I just heard that Mikako has some good news. So let me hand over to you, Mikako.
Yes, I just typed the link. The Issues API public beta is out. Hot from the oven, and still probably too hot. But
okay, so I'm sharing here. Let me share in a different way. Sorry, I think I should have shared that with Max window instead.
I thought you were going to say breaking news, and I thought something's broken, but this is breaking news.
Oh, yeah, it's
news.
Not a good way to say hot news.
Hot news, yes. So Issues API now available. That's amazing news. And I see beta there. What does it mean, Mikako?
Yeah, so this is a public beta, and compared with other beta, it looks a little bit more beta because we are still missing some functionality. And the page Augusto the first page Augusto was showing. It does have a listing of the scope of current release and then also limitations. So you may want to check that. For instance, I already know that the documentation related issues, that means that you mark it with so-called push pin, and those things is not supported. And then response also, there is some response which it say not relevant or something. Those will be removed. So pay a little bit attention that this is still marked as a beta. And then GA is, according to engineering team, is within 1 month or so. So hopefully we'll have a clean up version soon. And then please give it a try and then give us a feedback. I would like to know, the issues team would like to know the priority for missing part. So for instance, I already know setting like issues type and category, it's read only. So if something is missing for your workflow, let us know. That will be helpful for us to prioritize. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mary. That's great news. Just know she meant GA, meaning that it's moving out of beta and into production, or meaning that no, it's final. And for feedback, you can use the forge.help@autodesk.com email alias. So that will go straight into our support system. So any questions in general or any feedback or suggestions on how to improve this, it's welcome. forge.help@autodesk.com. Thank you, Mikako.
Mikako, can you tell us a little bit maybe what the differences are between the BM360 Issues API and the new one?
The new one, good point. August, maybe you can share the page again. That would be a memo for me, Michael. So we try to put it here. So main difference is in terms of API, the format of the response. So if you are familiar with, maybe show my face too. So if you are already familiar with the older or BM360 side of APIs, you may notice that the older one has so-called JSON API format, similar to what you see in data management API. So you have like links and all sort of format, like a data, blah, blah, blah. The new one should be more flat. So in some way, it's probably easier to handle if you are okay with that. If you have been using JSON API format, then you will need to adjust that. But that's the main visual difference. And then also in terms of the product side difference, So the issues has a slightly different permission system. I think it's like additional permission system. That might be something you may want to pay attention. So for instance, in the new SEC, you can assign, you have a permission to assign somebody only within your company, which didn't exist in BM360. So there is some slight difference in behavior. So that is also affecting with API access. So other than that, I think mainly other things are minor difference. And then of course, this limitation still exists. So those are the ones you may want to pay attention. I have a feeling many people are waiting for the documentation side of issues as well. But the first one is more on a project level field issues. Is it okay, Michael?
That's great. The only other question I have is, I thought that you said no, you didn't have any documentation and you had to write it all up yesterday. And so this is really fast. If you wrote it all yesterday, that's impressive.
Oh,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. For change, yes. The Michael was saying, is it coming when? 3 months, 6 months, and then I said a little sooner. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I think
this has been, the highly demanded. So that's the one of the reasons why we know there are some tweaks we needed, but we went ahead. So. And then tutorial is also missing, but we will definitely work on that.
Yeah. So let me just open for questions. I know that this is a long-awaited API. So anyone here using issues or planning to use issues on a project and keep in mind that this is issues for ACC, right? Issues is also available. Well, was already available for BM360, but now for ACC. Maybe not.
Yeah, compared with like a viewer or model property derivative services, relatively straightforward, as you may expect. So, yeah.
I had a customer yesterday. I have a meeting with a customer, and he was exactly asking me about this. So I redirect them to you, Mikako. But one of the questions is if they want to see the roadmap. I know that in AU we have the roadmap of ACC but the EU was in September. So is there any update on this roadmap that is public to send it to him?
The couple of weeks ago, we had ACC Partner Summit or something. There must be a recording from there. And then Jim Gray talked about the roadmap too.
Okay, that would be nice.
Let's find, do you know Jess Cheney?
No.
Yeah, maybe let's follow up then.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's get this one specific. All right, so any other projects from anyone, any topics that you want to bring up? I know that is Jaime here? Yes, we did announce last week about the OSS changes, right, Jaime?
Yes. Yeah.
Let me share here. Go ahead.
All right. So last year we launched basically a new set of OSS endpoints. We're asking people to migrate into a direct to S3 approach. There are kind of like many benefits in order to do this. The main one being performance. So the way that it usually goes as of now, it's from data management, we go into kind of like a middle point layer to later on go into the S3 bucket, which are like basically the OSS buckets. So the way that we're migrating now, it's a direct connection from the data management service directly into AWS S3. So this basically helps you out with performance at the time of the transfer of binary data. And we are producing upcoming SDK. I don't have the final date yet, but it should be coming quite soon. That will allow you to do this this change to be quite like seamlessly. But those endpoints are live today. So in case you would like to test it, we're giving you like 6 months since the announcement that happened last week, towards the end of September of this year. So I will say, if the sooner the better. Any questions that you may have, please just feel free to reach out directly. I can walk you through the process of what's the new workflow for Direct to S3 approach. I will be putting up a couple of blog posts also, one of them using something like Insomnia REST, for example. I'm not a big user of Postman, but it can be replicated in Postman. And then also Peter Bros and Joao worked on a couple of like samples. One of them is an Node.js approach and the other one is a .NET approach. So those are also incoming soon. And yeah, I think as of now, that's in the documentation for data management. There also are tutorials for uploading a file and downloading a file that uses this new Direct to S3 approach as well. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I think that just to be very direct and clear, the way you upload and download files from and to OSS is now deprecated. To upload and download files, you have to use this new approach that gives a direct link to the S3, the underlying S3 bucket. And if you have any application using that, you have to migrate by September 30th. And that's the documentation on how to do it. There is more information coming, more code and more samples, but it's time to start evaluating what needs to change on the application and prepare for that. I think I heard a question before.
Hello? The LearnForge documentation updated to Direct to S3. So we have not updated it yet, and the reason behind it's because we're waiting for the SDK to become available. So once that SDK becomes available, we are going to be doing that migration of LearnForge, and the same thing with the rest of our samples. The reason behind it's because, like I said, the SDK that it's getting worked on is going to make it a lot simpler than the new steps that we need to take in order to Direct to S3. I'm not saying that those steps are like difficult to do, but yeah, it's gonna be easier to just basically plug and play the new SDK in order to move forward from that.
Thank you, Jonathan, for a question. Yeah, good point. That applies for the tutorials and samples. That's why we haven't migrated them yet.
Yeah.
A question. So this may not be directly related to this change, but last year I was trying to get the file size of documents that were on BM360, the Revit links and so forth. There wasn't a direct way to do it. There wasn't a direct way to achieve it. I wound up looking at the file size of the cached, the file sizes in a cache. Well, does this change anything in relation to accessing or reading the file size of those files?
Yeah, so the file size, as I understand that you're talking about, comes from the project service API, or the data management project information, right? So you read the version, and inside the version you have the size, right? That's the one you're talking about.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So that information is actually stored in BM360 data, right? Not on the S3. That part is not changing, just because this approach is just to give direct access to the S3 bucket that we are eventually going to store the data anyway, right? So today, when you upload to developerapi.autodesk.com/OSS, that's just passing through and going to S3. So that's everything else is not changing.
Got it. Thank you.
And there is another question from Jonathan. Is the bootcamp happening later in April? Show us the new data management OSS. We are working to have the SDK, Jonathan, and as soon as we have that as well, everything will be migrated, and the trainings will be migrated as well. Yeah, so just finishing the SDK work.
Don't fully know if it's going to be completely ready by that April bootcamp. So crossing fingers that it will be.
Yeah. So sorry, this information is coming in pieces, right? So it's an just the reason is that we know that the applications that are very large and require a lot of effort to migrate, you have to start planning for that before you can actually have the code. So the decision was to announce it so you can start planning for it. And later on, we have more code samples and help libraries like SDKs to actually do the work. So if you have an application, Jonathan, or you're starting a new project, you can either wait a bit longer, just know of some time for the SDK. But if you have an existing application, just plan for it. And once we have the information, you can actually implement the code. All right, thank you, Jaime. Any other questions? This is a very important one, will take interesting effort. So Jonathan, what kind of project are you working on? As you asked 2 questions, let me bring you into the conversation.
I'm just starting to work on Forge related project where I work at a construction company, and we have a lot of dealings with a lot of things we do directly with the models via Revit API. We're now starting to connect our data warehouse to Forge. So there's a colleague of mine who usually misses these coffee breaks, so I'm catching up for him, and he does a lot of the background work with the Forge. At the moment, downloading a lot of the property models, the SDB. Am I right? And then my plan for the bootcamp is to actually take some of the model checking that we're doing on our models and bring it to the viewer, highlighting, errors that we find and so on. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think the interesting piece is that if you're just starting and using the Learn Forge or any other tutorial that we have, right? Once we update the tutorial, you can just replace the server-side piece that is uploading the file, right? Because very likely that will not affect your application. Yeah, it's a small piece, right? It's just the upload on the tutorial. Yeah, so it should be easy for you to replace that later. So if you're getting started, don't wait. You can do it now and just replace the upload function once we have the new one available in the tutorial. And hopefully with the SDK will be much easier. That's what we are aiming for. And yeah, that's the main idea. Cool. Good, interesting.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or topics? See a lot of new names this time. A lot of people too. So we have 19.
I see, and we can answer some of those. Tiffany, who is in the accelerator, just asked a couple of questions. In the Horizon Inc. Channel, and I can read them too.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, it's just because I see that Sergio was asking like Mikako and so on, and since I think most of us are here, we can go through it. So Tiffany, first question says, I am curious about the difference between Navisworks Viewer and Forge Viewer. I do see some Forge blog and training repositories that show timelines, etc., which is more of the for the future that I will assume Navisworks is better for. So for what I can tell, it looks like some folks bring in Navisworks functionality into Forge. Is there pricing difference between using Navisworks?
So that was the first question, right? So that's not the second question.
No, that's the first question.
Yeah, so the first, yes, sorry. Oh, yes.
Okay, so I can answer that. Basically, so there is no, everything that you see in regards to blocks, training, repositories, and everything, it keeps being the same Forge viewer. So there is no such thing as a Navisworks viewer that it's exposed within Forge itself. Like it's basically the same viewer itself. The viewer has capability of reading Navisworks files, and some of the workflow like that for the timeline, it is basically developed using JavaScript in order to get the same kind of functionality. There are legacy products, like for example, BM360 Blue back then, that actually uses Navisworks viewer. But
there is a Navisworks viewer, right? That is a COM-based component with some of the Navis features.
Yeah, but within whatever I think she's referring to, it seems like it is to blocks and repositories that she's seen online in order to compare it to the Forge viewer. But at the end, it's the same viewer itself. Or I'm misunderstanding the question. Maybe Tiffany can clear it out.
By the way, the redistributable viewer, it was in SDK, it was deprecated since last year. No more.
The Navisworks viewer, the COM component?
Yeah, the one which comes with SDK, and you can create your own ActiveX viewer. Yeah, that one is deprecated since last year.
I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah.
That's important. Yeah, so the Navis viewer and Forge viewer, the Navis viewer is the COM component Navis viewer, you need a Navis license for it. But the Forge viewer or any other viewer that you see on the browser, they are all Forge based, and the pricing just changes if you have a different product or different feature, right? So I think that's is that what you were asking, Tiffany? Or I'm not sure if you're still there.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just curious because I only have the general concept that there is a Navisworks viewer, and then some use cases where it might be a bit more suitable for construction project style use cases. So for me, I was just trying to understand, can I be a little bit more knowledgeable about when I would recommend the Navisworks viewer, and then not bother with saying we should use the Forge viewer is all.
Yeah,
so I think.
Yeah, I can add a little comment. So, this button responding slowly. So the wording of viewer in your use is a little vague. So I will take it first as a product difference. So as Jaime mentioned, we have three similar products in terms of, let's say, like a Crash. Looking at the Crash, we have a desktop Navisworks. You can do the crash detections, and then we had a glue, which called BM360 glue, like 10 years ago or so. And then now we have model coordinations, and those are for same purposes. However, if you look, since Navisworks, if you look at desktop products Navisworks, they have much more capabilities. In future, we wish to have everything, but we are little by little we are moving, and the Crash is the most popular one, the most highly, the used one. So we are working on it. But when we are putting in the cloud, we don't want to just put the same functionality. We are trying to enhance for much, for future too. So little by little, you probably see something, coming in the model coordination. So for instance, at the beginning, we only covered file format, maybe Revit, Navisworks, Revit, but now we have more the variety of file format. So little by little, the Autodesk is working on it. So those are the differences. So Timeliner, it's another popular one, but it's not in a cloud-based side. That means that it's not in ACC or BM360, and viewer is ACC and BM360 is using Forge viewer, and that part is not really ready in viewer either. So I hope you can understand the situation. So basically, if you see some features, it's not in Forge viewer, or I would say BM360 or ACC, that means that it's still missing, but we expect to see it in future.
Tiffany, I can add a little bit of light to that as well. So one of the features Navisworks does in the facilities management and operations and maintenance area is it does file aggregation, right? It brings lots of different file formats together, and then it can piecewise the results. So you can take a slice out of that federated data set. BM360 ACC typically organize drawings. It organizes things per drawing. And so you're not looking at federated drawings, you're generally looking at individual Revit files. You can upload a Navisworks file and view that in BM360, but part of the pipeline would be you would need to use desktop Navisworks to do the federation of those files. There is a public project now called Project Tandem that takes that workflow of Navisworks, which is desktop based, and it brings that to the cloud, and that uses Forge Viewer under the hood. And so that can take 50 different Revit files, 20 different IFC files, and it can aggregate them into a single view and then slice it up. And that's done in a browser, and it creates this thing called views, Tandem views. And that's targeting that facilities management digital twin area. So if that helps, there is a Autodesk product that's working on that does that today, I should say. And you can, if you look up tandem.autodesk.com.
Michael, yeah. All right, we are just ending the time. Sorry.
Okay.
Any last questions or comments? There was just a follow-up question from Tiffany. She was asking if there is any different price from translation from ACC and BM360. Actually, if you upload the module to BM360 or ACC, you don't pay for translation, right? And the Forge API behind it, if you are triggering the translation yourself, the price doesn't change, but you don't pay if you upload to BM360 or ACC. Right? This was the second part. Let me switch back here. Okay, with that, thank you very much for joining today. The next coffee break will be in 2 weeks, same link, same time, and hope to see you then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is one question from Modest, like Autodesk Tandem start from the desktop and not from ACC BM360. Tandem takes, you can take a file from the BM360 ACC too.
Yeah, so Tandem gets the models from cloud and desktop, right? I think Michael.
That's right. There's a synchronization button between that can sync BM360 ACC with Tandem, and so any file changes that happen in, Revit file changes in a project in BM360, it can be synced to Tandem, and it keeps the version. It keeps track of any deltas in the drawing. So if a door changes, that delta is captured.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mikako, for bringing up the question. Thank you, Moses, as well, for the question. All right, see you in 2 weeks. Recording will be available soon, and same link. See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Gustav.